I'm stuck on a remote Pacific island at midnight. This haunting secret will bone chill you. The moon clung to the night sky like a silver coin against a black velvet cloak. Waves crashed violently against the jagged rocks, sending sprays of salty mist that felt almost like icy fingers grazing the back of your neck. Alone, on an island that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat, Jenna felt a shiver crawl up her spine. The locals had warned her the night belonged to the spirits. She thought they were just trying to scare her. But here she was, the darkness pressing in around her like a creature ready to pounce. With every step she took, the sand shifted beneath her feet, wet and cold, like the breath of something hidden beneath. She could swear she heard whispers in the wind, soft yet insistent, like secrets floating just out of reach. Shadows darted between the trees, and the palm leaves rustled ominously as if they were trying to speak to her in their own twisted language. Jenna's heart raced. The dread gripped her chest, a tight vice that made each breath harder to draw. The strangest part? The air seemed to throb with energy, thick and heavy, almost electric. There, at the edge of the forest, stood an ancient statue, half buried in the earth. A face leered at her. It wasn't just a statue, there was something eerie about it. Its eyes were pitch black, absorbing the moonlight instead of reflecting it. Jenna felt drawn, as if the figure was beckoning her closer. A siren-esque call in the haunted night. A lump formed in her throat. Was she really about to investigate? She moved closer, her pulse thrumming in her ears. A chilling breeze swept through the trees, and she paused, her hand hovering just above the cold stone. What if it held the key to the island's dark past? What if it was nothing more than a grotesque facade? Did she dare find out? As she prepared to touch the statue, a loud crack echoed through the silence, a branch snapping from somewhere nearby. Panic surged in her gut. Someone or something was watching her. Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Heart racing, Jenna jumped back, breath hitching in her throat. The shadows seemed to twist and morph, almost like they were alive. She could barely see through the thick underbrush, but she could definitely feel that someone's gaze was fixed on her. She scanned the darkness, searching for the source of the sound, her palms clammy against the cool stone of the statue. Would she run, or confront whatever lurked just beyond the trees? This island was a labyrinth of secrets, and the more she uncovered, the more tangled the truth became. But what if the truth was something far worse? A cold sweat dripped down her back as she realized she might not be alone after all. Panic flooded her system, a wave of icy fear crashing over her like the tumultuous sea. Jenna stumbled backward, her foot catching on a jagged rock. She fell hard onto the ground, the wind knocked from her lungs. In that vulnerable moment, the whispers intensified. They swirled around her, mingling with the rustling palms, each word an eerie taunt. Jenna, the whispers seemed to chant, her name echoing through the trees like a desperate plea. Or was it a warning? She scrambled to her feet, breathless, every instinct screaming at her to flee. But the compelling pull of the statue held her fast. It towered above her, more ominous than ever, its black eyes watching her with unsettling awareness. Then, there came a rustle from the bushes, closer this time. She froze, spine tingling, her heart threatening to burst from her chest. The sounds of the island shifted. The crickets fell silent. The quiet pressed down on her, oppressive and terrifying. What she couldn't see was all-consuming. A figure erupted from the shadows, a burst of movement that sent her heart plummeting. It was just a fleeting glimpse, a flash of white and a dark silhouette merging with the trees. Jenna's breath caught, her mind racing. Had it been a person, an animal, or something far more supernatural? She took a step back, instinctively lowering herself, scanning every inch of darkness. "Get it together, Jenna," she whispered to herself. "You can't be scared of the dark." But doubt gnawed at her like a feral beast. Slinking through her thoughts, the statue loomed like a sentinel, anchoring her. Whatever this island was hiding, she was caught in its web of whispers. She sought clarity in the chaotic night, but the shadows only deepened her confusion. Forcing herself to act, she reached out again, fingers trembling as they grazed the cool stone. Instantly, a jolt of energy surged through her, a shock that reverberated deep within her bones. A vision struck her unbidden. She saw flashes of a village, fires burning, faces twisted in anger and fear, a ritual taking place under the same haunting moon. She gasped, pulling her hand back as if burned. There was a story etched in the very fabric of this island, and she was part of it whether she liked it or not. A screech sliced through the air, raw and guttural. Jenna spun around, eyes wide, searching frantically for the source. Was it some creature? Or perhaps a warning of the restless spirits the locals had spoken of? Then she saw it, a flicker of movement just beyond the trees, a shape darting towards her. No longer willing to stay and find out what awaited her, she turned to run, her legs pumping hard against the soft sand. She stumbled forward, desperation propelling her as the branches tugged at her clothes, trying to draw her back. The mist thickened around her, enveloping her in a cloak of uncertainty, the path ahead obscured. Just when she thought she might be free, a sharp cry pierced the air, halting her in her tracks. In that moment of agony, Jenna felt it, a whisper of fate, a haunting echo clamoring to be heard. The island wasn't just a place to explore. It was alive, and it had secrets desperate to be uncovered. She took a deep breath, steeling herself, unsure whether to run or stay and face whatever was waiting for her. But just as she made her choice, the ground beneath her trembled, and she heard it again, the voice that was not merely a whisper but a guttural growl, filled with the sorrow of the island itself. Come back. What awaited her was more than she ever bargained for, and the choice she made was only the beginning. The ground quaked beneath Jenna's feet like a living thing. She turned to scrape her shoes in the damp sand, but the whispers grew louder, clawing at her consciousness. Come back. The voice whispered again, more insistent this time, echoing in the stillness. Her heart raced, pounding like a war drum, every nerve ending alight with fear. Yet something deep within her, a flicker of curiosity mingled with dread, drew her back. What waited in that darkness? Was it a warning or an invitation? She spun around again, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she faced the statue. The moonlight caught the stone surface, making it shimmer ghostly white, and for a brief moment, Jenna thought she saw it breathe. It was as if it were alive, an ancient guardian of long-buried secrets. Clenching her fists, she inched forward, her breathing shallow and quick. Suddenly, an icicle of pain shot through her leg. She yelped, glancing down at her ankle, twisted painfully against the hard earth. Panic surged anew. She tried to move, but her body felt sluggish, constricted as if the island itself was trying to ensnare her. From her peripheral vision, shadows shifted. More than just the branches of the trees, figures, dark and twisty, appeared just beyond the veil of mist. Her heart lurched, eyes widening. Were those the faces from her vision? Those twisted features filled with rage and despair? Don't look away, a voice cooed, smooth and slithering, pierced through her fear like a knife. She hesitated, caught between the impulse to flee and the need to understand. The last remnants of the village vision reverberated in her mind. People had struggled, sacrificed. Was some dark fate still lingering here, waiting for a chance to be set free? Jenna. The voice again, closer. This time she felt it wrap around her like a cold embrace. Who is there? She shouted, her voice echoing back in a hollow timbre. It was a fool's question. She could feel the answer weaving through the dark, those who had come before her. Those who had met a fate too grim to comprehend. Just outside the cocoon of mist, the figures shifted uneasily. A cold sweat slicked her palms, and sweat trickled down her back. When another guttural cry pierced the air, it ignited her final spark of resolve. She gathered herself, clenching her jaw, mustering all her strength to confront whatever haunted this cursed place. Then, with a shuddering breath, she stepped forward into the murky shadows, heart racing, mind screaming. "Face me," she demanded, a challenge echoing against the thick canopy. The figures froze. Jenna squinted into the darkness, waiting. With a sudden jolt, the shadows began to morph, merging together until a singular form took shape. Barely visible in the night, it twisted and moaned, an apparition from the depths of despair, eyes glowing like embers. "Why have you come?" It rasped, voice like the crackling of dried leaves, each word saturating the air with dread. She gasped, clenching her aching ankle, fighting the wave of nausea. "I am searching for answers, but all I find is fear." The shape lunged closer, and the depth of its hollow gaze mirrored something Jenna hadn't seen before, the glimmer of a truth buried in pain, like the island itself. Her heart twisted. The apparition didn't respond immediately. Instead, it began to weave past her, each movement sending shivers down her spine. "Then seek it," murmured, fading into the mist. "But be warned, what you unearth may not release you." A deafening silence followed, leaving Jenna breathless. In that moment, she understood she could either dive deeper into the mystery or succumb to the terror gripping her heart. And then, against the gnawing fear and fading whispers, another voice emerged from the shadows. "The truth lies beneath." Jenna stood frozen, the weight of those words pressing down on her. What could possibly lie beneath, waiting to be unearthed? She took a trembling step forward into the darkness, knowing there was no turning back now. Whatever waited for her in the heart of the island was ready to reveal secrets that demanded to be known, but at what cost? Jenna's breath hitched as she took another tentative step, the shadows swirling around her like a living shroud. Each step felt heavier, the earth beneath shifting as if it were alive. The weight of the night pressed in, thick and oppressive, as the foliage whispered secrets only the ancients understood. "Why am I here?" she murmured, her voice barely a whisper, swallowed by the dark. The damp air clung to her skin, and as she squinted through the darkness, the cold bite of fear gripped her. A rustling sound broke the silence, sending shivers racing down her spine. Jenna stopped dead in her tracks, her heart thumping a frantic rhythm in her chest. She listened intently, breath suspended. This wasn't the wind. It sounded almost deliberate, like something or someone was making its way towards her. "Step back," she shouted, the words puncturing the stillness. But deep down, part of her wondered why she even bothered. The very air around her felt like a trap, luring her deeper. As the noise approached, Jenna's pulse quickened. Shadows danced at the edge of her vision, twisting and warping as the form materialized from the mist. She wished desperately for the moon to break free from the clouds, to cast light on whatever horror lurked before her. When it finally stepped into the murky glow, Jenna's breath froze in not just fear, but dread. It was another figure, another soul bound to this wretched place. The face was gaunt, hollow eyes filled with a darkness that devoured any glimpse of hope. "You shouldn't have come here." The voice was a rasping blend of anguish and warning, siphoning strength from Jenna's resolve. "Who are you?" she managed to choke out. "Why are you here?" "I am the one who sought the truth. I dug too deep. Now, I am lost." It reached a skeletal hand toward her, fingers curled in a desperate plea. But Jenna felt nothing but repulsion and terror. "Did you find the truth?" She pressed on, against the tide of fear churning in her gut. "Truth is a curse," it hissed, vision clouding with pain. "It shackles you to the past. Do not follow me." Before she could protest, the figure disintegrated into mist, its anguished wail resonating in the air around her, wrapping her in a chilling embrace. "What does it want?" Jenna breathed, barely finishing her thought when the wind howled like a beast, raking through the trees. The earth trembled again, more violently this time, throwing her off balance. She stumbled back, her ankle screaming in protest, but she steadied herself against the statue. The whispers returned, now rising to a deafening crescendo. "Find the stones, lift the veil." They swirled around her, blending with the rustling leaves and the drumming of her heart. Jenna was torn. Should she run, escape this nightmare? Or was staying the only way to uncover what lay buried beneath the island's dark facade? In that turmoil, the shadows shifted once more. A faint glow emerged from the base of the statue, shimmering softly like a forgotten memory begging to be remembered. Her pulse hammered, each beat screaming for her to look away, to free herself from whatever malevolence lay ahead. But the compulsion was stronger. Curiosity swelled within her, a swell that tugged at her very core. She crouched low, heart racing in tandem with the storm around her, and reached towards the glow. Jenna, a voice echoed, familiar and terrifying. It was the same smooth whisper she had heard before, imbued with warmth and malice. Awake in the past as her fingertips brushed against the surface, the statue vibrated beneath her touch, responding like an ancient beast roused from slumber. Was she waking the secrets embedded in the stone? Or perhaps unleashing something far more sinister? And then the ground trembled again. But this time it was different, a pulse, steady and deliberate, as if the island itself was holding its breath, waiting for her next move. With her heart pounding, Jenna realized that the answers she sought lay just within reach, but so did the spine-chilling wrath of those long past. What truths would emerge? What horror would she awaken? As the stone vibrated into life, the shadows began to close in tighter around her, breathless with anticipation. Then she heard it, a rumble, deep and echoing, as if the earth were responding to the call. Prepare to face the truth, whispered the winds, leaving behind a haunting promise. What lay beneath would change everything, and she could feel it pulling her deeper into the mystery that was just beginning to unfold. The moment Jenna touched the statue, the vibrations intensified, reverberating through her until they mingled with the frantic beat of her heart. The air thickened, cloying like a wet blanket as the whispers grew louder, crashing around her like waves against a rocky shore. Panic surged, but she couldn't pull her fingers away. Something was awakening, a truth that wanted to be uncovered, a reality that remained hidden for far too long. A flicker of light burst from the statue, illuminating the darkness and casting eerie shadows that twisted and writhed like serpents. Jenna squinted against the brightness and felt a coldness licking at her ankles, creeping up her legs. The glow was pulsating, rhythmic, echoing that deep rumble from within the ground. Find the stones, the wind hissed again, louder now, drowning out the sounds of the forest. Lift the veil, Jenna's breath grew shallow. The stones? What stones? Fractured memories danced in her mind, images of an old map she had once seen, lines marking a path through intricate islands, leading to hidden treasures. She shook her head, struggling to bring clarity. All she could focus on was the pounding in her chest, a generalized sense of dread that clung to her. Suddenly, without warning, the earth shifted again beneath her. A crack formed at her feet, jagged and deep. Adrenaline surged, and she yanked her hand away, stumbling back as darkness spilled from the crevice like smoke, curling into the air with a mind of its own. Jenna! The disembodied voice of the gaunt figure returned, more urgent this time. You must listen. The stones are your only hope. They will protect you, but you must be willing to face the truth. Her heart raced. What truth? Was she truly willing to confront whatever horrors lay in wait? She glanced back at the glowing statue, half expecting to see that skeletal hand reaching out to her once more. But instead, the light dimmed, flickering as if it sensed her hesitance as she teetered on the precipice of the darkened divide. Jenna turned back to the forest. Some unseen force tugged at her, an instinct that whispered of urgent importance. A path lay ahead, winding between the trees, illuminated with radiant energy she could almost taste. Find the stones, the voice drilled into her psyche, resonating with her every step. She moved, feet barely touching the earth, rushing toward the glow. The thrum of the air seemed to guide her, pulling her along as she leapt over roots and dodged hanging vines. What would she find? Shadows shifted around her, eager to trip her up, to ensnare her, but she pressed on, determination overriding her fear. Then she saw them, glowing stones, scattered beneath the massive trees, vibrant against the dull earth. Some pulsed with light, while others glimmered, reflecting the few stars that dared pierce the clouded sky above. She dropped to her knees, her hands brushing over their surfaces, each one vibrating with energy, telling stories of what had been, and what was yet to come. All at once, the howling wind cut through the silence, chilling her to the bone. "You must choose," it screamed, the fury rising with unexpected fury. A choice? The primal instinct of fight or flight gripped her tightly. She felt the weight of 1,000 eyes watching from the shadows, waiting to see what choices she would make. Would she sever the string that tied her to the darkness, or would she plunge into the depths of midnight and unearth the unspeakable? With her heart racing and breath caught in her throat, Jenna held her hands over the stones, a conflux of power swirling around her. She closed her eyes, drawing in courage. "What do I do?" she whispered to the night. The ground rumbled again, and a voice rose, solid and terrifyingly familiar. "Awaken all of it. Embrace the darkness." The words sent icy tendrils creeping up her spine. Dread and determination clashed inside her. What awaited her if she chose to wield that power? As she looked out over the pulsing stones, a sudden realization cut through the tension. Beneath those ancient stones lay far more than she had anticipated: forgotten whispers, unleashed spirits, and a truth she wasn't sure she was ready to face. With trembling fingers, Jenna reached for the largest stone, heart in turmoil, knowing that the truth she sought may be the very thing that consumed her. What if it was already too late to turn back? The echoes of the past were calling her name once more. What horrors did the stones conceal? The moment Jenna's fingers brushed the surface of the largest stone, a jolt surged through her, a shockwave that knocked the wind from her lungs. The ground beneath her trembled violently, and the air thickened with a smell of damp earth and something far older, something sinister. She pulled her hand back, heart slamming against her ribs, eyes wide in terror. Why had she thought this was a good idea? Awaken all of it. Embrace the darkness. The voice echoed again, reverberating within her skull. It wasn't just a command. It felt like a curse, binding her to a fate she could barely grasp. Darkness seeped from the crevice she'd stumbled upon, swirling around her like a fog of despair. She fell back, her breath hitching, urgency flooding her senses. If she didn't act, whatever lay below would rise up and claim her. The stones, what did they hold? Jenna's gaze darted from one glowing stone to the next, desperation clawing at her. They pulsed in unison, beckoning, as if sharing a hive mind, alive with an energy she could scarcely comprehend. "Which one?" she muttered, panic rising in her throat. "Which will keep me safe?" An answering shudder rippled through the stones, shaking the very air. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a flicker, a shadow, darting between the trees. Her heart raced as urgency met fear. Were they watching her? "Choose!" The wind screamed again, shrill and relentless, echoing through the darkness as shadows continued their relentless dance. If she didn't pick, the darkness would take her. Jenna swiped at her tears, blinking against the growing panic. One more glance at the stones and the choice seemed clearer. The stone furthest back, its light dim but steady, called to her like a lighthouse in the storm. "What if it's the wrong one?" she whispered, clutching her arms around herself, feeling the coldness seep through her clothes. "Trust. What awaits," murmured the air, almost tenderly, and she realized it was the same voice, the gaunt figure filling the silence with echoes of its presence. "Face it, Jenna." With a deep breath, Jenna lunged for the dim stone, her fingers trembling as they wrapped around the surface. Instantly, an electric sensation pulsed through her. She gasped, but there was no pain, only a flare of warmth that coursed through her. Images crashed into her mind, visions of past lives, ancient battles, and sacrifices made with hope and despair intertwined. But then darkness surged back against her, the cold sound of laughter that made her skin crawl. It felt like thousands of eyes bore down on her. "Foolish girl, you think you can control it?" The air sparked with energy as she stumbled back, unable to hold onto the stone's power. The laughter grew louder, drowning out her thoughts, dragging her into a tug-of-war with shadows that pulled at her reality. "No, Jenna screamed, thrashing against a force anew, her sanity threatening to splinter at the edges. She couldn't let it take her. Not now. With a final desperate breath that clawed at her lungs, Jenna lifted the stone high above her head, feeling the vibrations pulse like a heartbeat. "I bind you to me," she shouted, feeling a ripple of ancient magic ignite the air around her. The shadows recoiled, the laughter silencing abruptly, caught in disbelief. Dark tendrils slithered away, shadows weaving back into the trees, leaving Jenna standing firm on her ground. "What have you done?" the gaunt figure croaked, its voice laced with unexpected admiration and dread. "You have awakened something far more than you realize." The world around her dimmed slightly, and new figures emerged from the creeping mist, both ghostly and ominous. Their faces twisted in sorrow and anger, remnants of those who had faced similar choices long ago. Jenna felt the weight of their gaze. She had thought she was ready, but was she truly? The path ahead was uncertain, and shadows now danced around her more dangerously than before. One question echoed in her mind, louder than the rest. Had she just opened a door she could never close? A shift caught her attention, a whisper that sent chills racing down her spine. "Collect us," it hissed. "You will need us." Jenna took an unsteady step backward, the stone pulsing in her hand, reminding her that the true confrontation had only just begun. What more would she have to face? And would the thrill of power save her or seal her fate? The air crackled violently, tension stretching thin as Jenna gripped the stone tighter. The pulsating power connected her to something ancient, something vast and terrifying. Shadows crept closer, their whispers coiling around her like smoke, and she could feel the mounting pressure threatening to unhinge her resolve. "Collect us," the ghostly voices urged again, their tone shifting. Felt like they were pleading or perhaps warning. "Only when gathered will you understand." "Understand what?" she shouted into the dark, frustration spilling over. She didn't know what was real anymore, or if she had opened a door she couldn't shut. The figures surrounding her flickered ominously, trapped between worlds, their faces contorted with desperation. Cold wind whipped through the clearing, and the shadows recoiled for a moment. Jenna took a deep breath, trying to center herself. "I can handle this," she shouted, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her confidence. "Can you? Or will you be swallowed whole?" The gaunt figure emerged again, eyes glowing with an otherworldly light that sent shivers down her spine. "Be wary of what you unleash." The weight of its gaze bore down on her. She could feel the warmth of the stone still pulsing in her palm, but doubt began to invade her thoughts. Were those spirits there to guide her, or to condemn her for meddling with forces beyond her control? Suddenly, a figure lunged from the shadows. A fleeting image flashed before Jenna, a woman with a twisted smile and dark, hollow eyes. Jenna's breath caught in her throat. The woman looked familiar. Was it someone she knew? Was it someone bound to her fate? The specter pointed toward the other stones, her presence a chilling reminder of the choices Jenna had just made. "What do you want from me?" Jenna shouted, desperation turning into an urgent plea as she stumbled backward. The woman's mouth moved, but no words escaped. Instead, a chilling silence surrounded her, absorbing her every sound and raising the hair on the back of her neck. The other figures shifted, their once sorrowful expressions turning into grimaces of horror. "I have brought you here for a reason. You have awakened us," the gaunt figure whispered, stepping closer, curiously studying Jenna. "But it is you who must choose your path." "Path?" Jenna echoed, confusion washing over her. "What do you mean?" "Find the others," the gaunt figure responded cryptically, its voice low and haunting. "Gather them before the night escapes. For once it does, all will be lost to the darkness." As the wind howled around her, swirling debris into a ghostly dance, Jenna's heart raced. She understood now that power came with a price and a responsibility she had not anticipated. But the stone pulled her thoughts back like a tether. Were there others like it? What if gathering them meant facing those who had been lost, their ancient darkness now weaving through the very fibers of her fate? The shadows flickered again, drawing closer as tendrils wrapped around her ankles, trying to tug her back into the abyss. Panic surged, but a flicker of resolve ignited in her chest. She wasn't just a vessel for their power. She could wield it, she could shape her destiny. "I'll find them," she declared, an iron determination edging into her voice. "But tell me how." "Hurry," the spirits urged in unison, their voices echoing as if warning of an imminent doom. Before the final shadow falls. Without a second thought, Jenna spun on her heel and took off deeper into the darkness, the weight of the stone anchoring her as shadows swirled and clawed at her. The night was alive with challenges ahead, but now, with urgency burning bright within her, she would face whatever was waiting in that suffocating blackness. What other secrets lay ahead, and what would she have to sacrifice to discover the truth of her new reality? The question hung heavy in the air, gnawing at her as the shadows pressed ever closer. As Jenna raced deeper into the darkness, her heart pounding like a war drum, each footfall was swallowed by the eerie silence around her. The shadows writhed at the edges of her vision, a quickening mass of obscurity that held countless secrets. With every breath, she tasted the bitterness of dread and the electric charge of determination. The stone pulsed in her hand, warm and alive, as if it sensed the urgency of her quest. She could almost hear its hum, calling her a subtle reminder that time was slipping away. Gathering her courage, she focused on the shadows, trying to make sense of them. Were they threats or paths to something greater? As soon as she stepped into a clearing, the wind died down, an unnatural stillness enveloping her. She caught sight of something glimmering to her right, a pale light flickering like a wisp of hope. Slowing her pace, she moved towards it, caution pooling in her chest. The last thing she needed was to stumble into another trap. What emerged was unexpected. Another stone, radiant and inviting, but tethered to the ground by a thick, gnarled vine that looked like a living snake. It wriggled as she approached, its texture pulsating with a grotesque life of its own. Maybe this was one of the stones she needed to gather. "Come closer," a voice drifted through the air, soft and almost melodic. It had an otherworldly quality, making Jenna feel both drawn and repelled. She hesitated, feeling the tug of the stone in her palm, urging her forward. "Who are you?" she called, her voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" "I am bound to this vessel, much like you are to the one you hold," the voice answered, now clearer, echoing off the silent trees. "Release me, and together we can find the others." The shadows danced at the edge of her vision again. What if this was a trick? What if releasing the stone only unleashed an even darker curse? Still, curiosity piqued. She needed allies. Just then, another figure emerged from the darkness, a small man, frail and gaunt, with hollow cheeks and haunted eyes. He moved with a grace that belied his appearance, gliding closer until he stood beside the second stone. "Don't trust her. This one lies," he exclaimed, pointing at the swirling shadows that seemed to undulate with each word. "Silence!" The voice snapped, a surge of fury rippling through the air. "You know nothing of my power." Fear gripped Jenna's throat, squeezing tight. To release one stone could mean breaking open a pathway to darkness. But could it mean salvation? "What do I do?" she shouted, desperation clawing at her. The weight of the choices pressed down on her, stark and unforgiving. "Trust your heart," the frail man replied earnestly, his eyes unyielding. "It will guide you even when all seems lost." With the clock ticking down, the shadows began to close in around her, a suffocating embrace that blackened the edges of her vision. The landscape shifted, morphing into an uncanny collage of figures from her past, their faces flickering in and out, a tapestry of moments that haunted her. Time was slipping away. Jenna could feel it, a tangible menace in the air. Every second mattered. "Gather us," cried the voice of the stone, brittle with urgency. "Only then can you uncover the truth that binds them all." For a moment, Jenna felt paralyzed by the weight of her unknown potential. If she seized this opportunity, what would it cost her? With a deep, shuddering breath, she reached out toward the second stone. As her fingers brushed against it, the ground trembled beneath her, and the veil of darkness threatened to consume her whole. What would happen when Jenna dared to seize the power within her grasp? The air thickened with foreboding, and she braced herself for what would come next. The moment Jenna's fingers made contact with the stone, a surge of energy shot through her. It was overwhelming, electrifying, and shot through her veins like wildfire. The vines recoiled as if they were retreating from her touch, and the ground beneath her shuddered, releasing a low, mournful groan that reverberated in her chest. Light erupted from the stone, casting stark shadows across the clearing. It illuminated the frail man beside her, his translucent skin glowing under its radiance. His eyes widened, reflecting the light as if it were the last spark of hope in an otherwise dim world. "Keep going," he urged, his voice a harsh whisper against the brewing chaos around them. "It's working. You're breaking the bond." Before she could fully comprehend, the shadows convulsed violently. They poured forth from the depths of the forest, swirling and hissing like a storm of angry serpents. The melodic voice from the stone now strummed a darker chord, reverberating the very air with a sense of impending doom. "Foolish girl, you think you can control me?" The voice thundered, rattling the branches above and sending birds crashing into the dark sky. "I'm not bound by your fragile will." Her heart pounded fiercely against her ribs. Was it too late to pull back? The strength radiating from the stone was intoxicating, but with it came the weight of something malevolent, something that beckoned her deeper into its grasp. She had to fight against it. With every ounce of will, she forced her emotions to rise. "I'm not afraid of you. I have to gather the stones." Her words sparked a flicker of doubt in the swirling mass. "You'll never have my heart." As if mocking her, the shadows twisted harder, closing in around her, coiling tightly. She glimpsed dark faces, 1,000 twisted, sorrowful visages screaming silently, reaching out with phantom limbs, trying to pull her down into their depths. "Fight!" shouted the frail man, his voice rising over the terrifying chorus of despair. "Keep reaching for the light." Jenna squeezed the stone tighter, letting its warmth seep into her skin. She reached for the second stone again, forcing the energy to connect. She didn't just want to gather the stones. She wanted to sever their control over her, to protect herself from the darkness that threatened to engulf her. Light erupted once more. It spiraled into a blinding beam that sliced through the shadows. The ground beneath Jenna's feet became solid again, and she felt a surge of power swelling within her, a force so wild and freeing that it almost brought her to her knees. But just when relief rippled through her, the shadows drew in tighter and darker. They seemed to pulse with rage, the chilling voices harmonizing into dissonant whispers that promised torment. "You will pay for this transgression." A sudden instinct gripped her. She turned back to the frail man, whose gaze had turned fierce, filled with knowledge that screamed at her instincts. "Tell me what to do," she cried, panic rising sharply in her throat. "Unite the stones," he shouted, pushing forward through the chaos, his frail frame appearing stronger than it ever had. "Only then can you unleash true power. It's the only way to break the chains tethered to this curse." But as she braced herself to act, a tendril of darkness shot out, barely missing her, brushing against her face like icy fingers. The threat was real. The warning was clear. Could she truly unite the stones? The shadows clawed hungrily at her resolve, each second dragging out agony and uncertainty. Her heart raced even faster now. What if she failed? Would the darkness swallow her whole? With a deep, determined breath, Jenna steeled herself. She had to leap into the unknown. She had to believe in the light within her even when the darkness screamed to take her. And as the shadows tightened, she knew that one decision could change everything. What price would she pay to find the strength to unite them all? Jenna stood amidst the chaos, heart pounding, as shadows clawed at her, reaching for her soul. The stone pulsed in her grip, a beacon of warmth and hope against the enveloping dark. She could feel the weight of countless eyes upon her, ancient souls waiting for their chance to be freed. "Unite the stones." The frail man's voice echoed in her mind, driving home the only choice that mattered now. With resolve knitting her brow, Jenna glanced around. Each glowing stone she spotted held a flicker of energy, whispering promises of truth and freedom. "Will you help me?" she called, holding up the stone in her hand. I'll free you. The shadows shrieked, a sound that reverberated through the trees, raw with fury. For every flicker of light she saw against the darkness, the shadows seemed to swell, fueled by their fear of being unearthed. Dennis, she had to remember him, the frail man beside her. If he believed in her, she could do this. She took a deep breath, channeling all the fear, pain, and hope swirling within her, and dashed toward the closest stone, its glow illuminating a pathway forward. With each step, she could feel the air charge around her, a crackling energy urging her to act quickly. Together, she shouted, determination fueling her actions. The frail man mirrored her urgency, and together they knelt before the stone. As her fingers brushed its surface, the warmth spread through her like molten sunlight, connecting her energy to its vibrancy. Simultaneously, the voices of the shadows intensified, a twisted cacophony of threats and promises of despair. You are too weak, they panted, their desperate whispers lashing at her sanity. But she pushed against the tide, drawing strength from the light absorbing her fear. Gather the others, the figure urged, and with a surge like a tsunami, she stood, thrusting the discovered stone high above her head. I call upon those bound by darkness. I offer you freedom. In that moment the world exploded with light. The shadows convulsed, screeching incoherently as if something beyond comprehension was released. From the depths of the forest, the other stones lit up, drowning out the darkness, each one pulsing like a heartbeat. Jenna's head spun as energy flowed through her, the weight of history clawed at her skin. She could see faces, gaunt and desperate, begging her to not stop. Jenna! The man clutched her arm, eyes bright with excitement. You're doing it. As the light swirled around them, Jenna felt herself open up to the connection of the stones, each one a thread binding the truth woven through the tapestry of existence. The darkness twisted and snapped, a predatory entity on the edge of obliteration. She could feel its rage, its desperation to maintain control wrestle against the light breaking free. Come forth, she roared, squaring her shoulders, raw determination flooding her veins. I claim this power. As she spoke, the shadows writhed violently, shrinking back against the enveloping glow. Their menacing forms lost their strength against the brilliance that poured forth. And then it dawned on her the key wasn't merely setting them free. It was welcoming their stories, intertwining them with hers. Reveal yourselves, she cried, commanding them, and suddenly memories of those lost intertwined with hers. Visions flared, faces of those who had come before her, tormented and crushed but bursting with courage. They all begged to be remembered, to be known. Feel us, cried another disembodied voice, echoing through the chaos. Experience our truth. Jenna grasped the pulsating light that raced around her, feeling every heartbeat resonate within her own. Together they pressed forward. I will remember you, she vowed, the connection sewing their stories into a singular thread of power. Her strength surged higher until it felt too vast to bear. The obsidian blackness screeched, the shadows recoiling like fingers burned by flame. No, you cannot hold us, they snarled, their cries swallowed by Jenna's empowered voice. I will hold you. I will unite you. With one final push, she thrust her connected stones towards the center of the chaos. A blast of light erupted outward, enveloping everything in its path. The night around them exploded, and the shadows were pulled into the light, trapped in the shining force, their screams suddenly extinguished into nothingness. And in that split second, Jenna felt the stones merge into one, their warmth radiating harmony through her bones. The spirits were free. The night vanished, all darkness swept away like fog, transforming into a radiant dawn. Jenna could now see the village she had glimpsed in her visions, a place bathed in sunlight, vibrant and alive. She stood at the precipice of a new beginning, with the spirits surrounding her, radiant and at peace. Their faces glowed with gratitude, their voices now whispers of comfort, not despair. Thank you, they murmured, their collective sigh a balm to the wounds they had carried for far too long. Jenna stood taller, watching the sun rise, knew she finally unearthed the truth. As the shadows faded, she knew her life was changed forever. She had been initiated into a legacy, a guardian of their stories. Goodbye, she whispered, knowing that she would carry them with her always. And as she turned towards the path leading back to the village, sunlight dancing through the trees, she felt a swell of hope and the weight of responsibility settled firmly on her shoulders. A beautiful burden she accepted with grace. This was her journey, and it was only just beginning. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive story as we dive deeper into Jenna's incredible journey. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions to this ending, and tell me what you think Jenna will face next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world, and only true fans like you understand the power of community.